everybody, and welcome to the June 2022 edition of the Facebook Live for the Office of Admission. My name is Heath Einstein. I am Dean of Admission at Texas Christian University, and thrilled to have all of you here with us this evening or this morning, depending on where you are joining us from. And I see Georgios is here from Athens, Greece, which is super awesome. We've got Emma from Boston and Kay from Round Rock, and Ned from Chicago, and Miguel from San Antonio. And this is just so great because it is emblematic of what we see here at the TCU community, students who come from literally all over the world to study and to engage in our world-class value-centered institution. Like all of our programs at the TCU in the Office of Admission, we start with our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge all Native peoples who have been on this land since time immemorial, and we are particularly we pay respect to the Wichita and affiliated tribes upon whose ancestral homeland we are located. I want to introduce a very special guest this evening, Terrence Hood, who works in our Center for Career and Professional Development. Hello, Terrence. How are you?
Hey, Heath, I'm doing just fine. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Terrence has a lot to share with us this evening. And as you all know, the topic of our session tonight is career services, career prep, and all of the things that that one can do as a student here at TCU or any college campus for that matter. But particularly, we're going to be focusing on TCU, the things that we do as a university to help students prepare for life after college, and the steps that students ought to be taking. And we think this is really important for you to be thinking about right now. We had a session you might remember, because we've been doing this now for, gosh, a year and a half, several months ago, I think it was last year at some point, with Mike Caldwell, also from the Center for Career and Professional Development. And in that session, we talked quite a bit more about what high school students ought to be thinking about in terms of preparing for career at that point, and sort of setting you on that early path. The focus tonight's really going to be on the experience at TCU. If you've been with us in any of our sessions in the past, you know that this is a highly organic session. I have just these sort of opening brief remarks. I'm going to throw it to Terrence in a minute, and he has just a few things to share with us. But ultimately, what we really want to do is answer your questions. And so it is not too early to start throwing those questions into the chat. We will get to as many of them as possible. Again, the focus tonight primarily will be on career prep, but we may veer into other topics as well. It's an interesting time of year, June, early June, because if you're a high school senior, well, heck, you may have already graduated already. You may be actually a current first-year student in college. Although depending on where you are in the country, you could still be in school very much. If in the Northeast, in California, we know our friends there are still in school. And so you're prepping for going to college here really soon. If you're a current college student and you're thinking about transferring to TCU, you may be in the application process right now and waiting for a decision from us. You may be a high school junior about to embark on your senior year. And these are things that you ought to be thinking about here early on. Or you might be a parent of a student or a caretaker of a student. And hopefully you all will get all of your questions answered. I do want to acknowledge the help that is being given to us behind the scenes. Rob Berline from our alumni office, Amy Peterson from marketing and communication, and Jenny Moore in the Office of Admission are all working feverishly behind the scenes to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. So thank you very much to Rob and Amy and Jenny. And then finally, before we really jump into things, I wanted to mention we're going to be taking our annual hiatus next month. We will not have a Facebook session in July, but we will be back in August, the first Wednesday in August, and we have a very special guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is, other than to say it is someone who works for TCU Athletics. The topic will be intercollegiate athletics, and I think you're going to be really interested to see who joins us in August. Okay, I've already spoken for far too long, Terrence, without giving you the floor. So let me hand it over to you and share any thoughts that you might have here before we get to folks' questions.
Sure, Heath. Well, again, thank you so much for having us. And just want to welcome everyone that's watching us this evening. And the Career Center Our goal really is to help our incoming students, whether they're freshmen all the way to seniors. And I also work with alumni. So one of the very unique things about TCU is when you start as a freshman, you have access to our services. And some wonder what can first year students do in the Career Center: resume assistance, career assessments, and discovering majors. We help with all of those services. And one of the coolest examples I can think of in terms of what this early engagement looked like, around 7 years ago, one of our student workers got an internship as a sophomore at the Department of Homeland Security in DC.
Wow.
So she was a sophomore. B, she worked in the Career Center, so she had access to all of our resources. So she was being more proactive with her job search and internship search, and got a terrific internship in DC over the summer. So she's building that experience. So we say career prep. Lots of career prep is being proactive, using your resources, establishing relationships with myself and with the Career Center team. So you are what we call career ready. So when you graduate, you already have some experiences under your belt that employers look for. So I'm happy to be here and happy to share more about what we can do to help students to be successful.
That's great. That's a very interesting story, and one that I suppose is probably not terribly unique. Oh, hey Georgie, look,
Uh,
this is what happens when you do Facebook Live. You get
yeah.
dogs. I got a cat going around here somewhere too. Hi Georgie. Okay, so I want to start with just a little bit about how we're structured in our Center for Career and Professional Development. We have a career consultant in every school and college at TCU, and then even beyond that, some folks have some other areas of focus. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the uniqueness and how that benefits our students?
Absolutely. Well, as you say, Heath, we do have career consultants that are assigned and dedicated to every academic college on campus. And so we are generalists on one side, but we're also specialists where we have someone assigned to the College of Science and Engineering. Our business school has their own career center with dedicated staff. Fine arts, education, and communication, liberal arts. So we have dedicated staff that are trained in resumes. We also work with employers on a regular basis who want to post internships. And I work personally with student athletes. So when you mentioned athletics, my antennas went up because we're always getting employers inquiries about student athletes and how do I recruit student athletes from TCU. Have some wonderful success stories. One of our athletes recently got a job at the San Antonio Spurs. Just graduated this May with a full-time career. That was something he was looking for. So I work with him from junior year all the way to senior year. But we're big enough. We're a big university, but we're a small community. And what that means for you is we have dedicated people, dedicated staff that are assigned to help you to get you from where you are to where you want to be, whether it's choosing a major, finding internships, graduate school, etc. So we're big and we're small at the same time.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's actually a huge advantage for TCU students. I mean, if you're a nursing student, let's say, to have a specialist who very much understands the unique curricular experience that the student is having and how that might align with a summer internship or something like that, or a fine arts student. Let's say you're a dancer or you're a musician, to have somebody who really understands that field versus just a straight generalist. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And all of our consultants work very closely with their faculty and their deans to understand the curriculum. And many of our consultants, in fact, all of them go into the classrooms for presentations, our senior seminar classes. We're involved in orientation as we speak to get visibility to our first year students. So employers are sharing with us what skills they want, but we want to be able to help students articulate skills from the classroom and their projects to their resumes, to their documents, so they can be career ready and brand themselves accordingly. And all of that starts in their first year. It's never too early to start using our services. It's never too late in theory. We do have some seniors that wait to the last minute. We try to leave it as much as possible. We can't stop them all. But again, this is all about helping them to be prepared, branding, and being career ready. So our faculty have always been helpful with us to share what they're teaching, how that relates, current projects, how do I market projects on my resume. So our faculty partners have been very helpful for us to help our students be successful as well.
Well, Terrence, that brings up a really interesting point because I remember when I was in college, about a million years ago, it was not uncommon for people to walk into the Career Center like February of their senior year to start thinking about what they might want to do after college. And now it seems like it's earlier and earlier. Is there an ideal time? Is there a best time? Is there a worst time? Or does it really just depend on the student?
It really does depend on the student and their initiative. We do encourage students to take ownership of their career path. And so, like I mentioned, my student worker was a sophomore and got an internship. Many people wait till they're junior or senior, but if you have a GPA established and you're looking for internships in various fields, we have Handshake, our database for internships and job postings. And we have around 20,000 live job postings
Wow.
as we speak. So it's up to the student to take initiative. We are available, but we're very visible. So very few students on campus don't know who their career consultant is. That's really unique. If you go to any student, typically they're a sophomore, junior, they've got an email from us, they've seen us in the classroom, and we have office hours in the academic colleges. So I have an office in the Schollmeyer Arena for athletics. We have an office in Tucker for engineering, in the Bass building for Harris College. So we're not just in the Harrison building, the main career center, we're also visible to faculty, deans, classes. We have office space in our academic colleges as well.
You said that there are 20,000 postings on Handshake. So that means there are more internships available than we have students.
Just
right?
about, just about. The job market is doing really good right now, and we anticipate it being good for at least the next 3 months. And so we're approving about 100 jobs a day in most cases. So there is lots of opportunity out there. So Handshake is just one of the ways to find those positions, and Handshake is nationwide, but we do have employers that just want to hire horned frogs as well.
Yeah. Wow. So, I'm not generally a big fan of rankings, except for when they make us look good. And so we are the number 4 school in the country, according to the Princeton Review, number 4 best private school for internships. And you just mentioned internships, which of course is that critical pre-professional experience, which sometimes it's good to know what you want to do or what you don't want to do. Sometimes you get those internships and you have that experience. It's like, oh, that's not, but better to experience that before you're out into your first job, right?
Absolutely.
So at TCU, about 4 in 5 students will have an internship during their 4-year journey at TCU, which at least strikes me as a pretty high number. I think some of those are required or built into the curriculum, where others are internships that students get on their own. Can you talk about the difference there, or are there certain programs that do require it of students?
There are certain programs in the academic colleges. I know, for example, our criminal justice department, they have an internship course built in to the curriculum. So many of our students do internships in their academic colleges as a requirement, but there are some who are looking for whether it's an unpaid internship or a paid internship opportunity. And those are found in most cases on Handshake, but some are using LinkedIn to find internships, talk to their career consultant. We have career fairs on campus every semester. And so we do also offer an intern scholarship program for those who get an internship that's unpaid or pays very low amount, like around $500. So not only can they apply for an unpaid internship, they can get it, then come back to the Career Center and apply for a scholarship to help them achieve their internship. So it's not a tuition benefit, it's more if they need housing, transportation for their internship. So there's an extra support for those who are getting internships that are unpaid.
Terrence, that's one of my favorite things about what we offer our students in terms of that career preparation, because I remember in college, and it's still true today, I think, that there are some fields where it's just really hard to get a paid internship. And therefore, it forces the student to make that really difficult choice. Do I pursue this pre-professional experience, or do I have spending money for the upcoming semester? And now we're not forcing students to make that choice. And it's not like with the internship scholarship program, like 1 or 2 students get it. We're able to fund a lot of students every year this way. The university has earmarked hundreds of thousands of dollars for this.
Absolutely. And so we're just wrapping up our application process, and those who apply for it, they give us the reasons they want the money, they help with transportation or just food, housing, those things. So sometimes it's a small expenses that help students have peace of mind. I can get this done, but there's support. And we've given away, like you said, thousands of dollars to students who apply. And the only ones that typically don't get the money is those that say, I don't need it on the application. A handful say, I don't want this money, but I'm applying anyway. So you might not get it. So don't say that if you don't need the money.
Right. Don't go through the motions, right? Okay, we're going to take a very brief break because Terrence, you might not know this. We have a tradition on these Facebook Live sessions where we do dad jokes. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a joke. I'm gonna give you a second to respond to it. We'll see if you know the answer. So this is my dad joke. The first one. I don't know how many they're going to be tonight. We'll just sort of play it by ear. Okay, what state in the United States does the most laundry? What state does the most laundry?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say New York because they're so big. I'm not, I may be off.
No, it's a good guess. The answer is Washington. Washington does the most laundry. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled program. We have a question from Lane, and we sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but let's dig a little deeper. How far ahead do you suggest undergrads start visiting the Career Center, and what resources do you offer for those embarking on the career search? So we've got orientation that's happening right now. Is it appropriate for a student even as early as right now or the very first week of their first year? Like, how would you respond to Lane's question?
Absolutely, Lane. That's a great question. I would recommend all services start typically when classes start in the fall semester. So, and most students are more concerned about where's my dorm, where's my class. But as a first year student, they can come to the Career Center as a freshman student, first semester, first week, first day, whatever their preference is. And what our first year students primarily are interested in major advice, career advice. That's the most popular service. Some want resumes, but many are just trying to decide, am I in the right major? Should I change my major? Should I choose a minor? So our career consultants are trained to offer coaching with the students. So we don't really tell them what they should major in. We're not prescriptive, but we might even offer them a chance to take one of our career assessments. We offer an assessment that's based on their overall interest. So they can take a quick 30-minute assessment called the Strong Interest Inventory and get a list of potential majors, career options, classes, activities, all those things that are based on their interests. And that tends to be a very good starting point, a jumping off point to explore the possibilities.
That's great. I want to encourage folks to continue to ask questions. Throw them in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Let's move on to a question that Cindy asks, which is, how do you assist those students who are pre-majors to guide them towards a job when they graduate? I love this question, Cindy. For those who don't know, pre-major at TCU is it's our terminology for undecided. So a student who's not sure exactly what they want to major in. And let's be honest, a lot of students come in with one major and they're still not 100% sure that that's what they want to do. So how do you guide students during their college career when they aren't yet set on their career path?
Cindy, great question. And first thing we'll do is typically we'll normalize the idea of being undecided, because when I was in college, I was undecided for a long time. I didn't have a career center. I chose the first major that sounded good in theory, but it's totally normal if you're 18 and you don't know what you want to do with your life. I can totally get that. But if we have a pre-major, undeclared major, again, we'll probably talk to them about what they're exploring. We'll ask some powerful questions about what are some things you're thinking about? What do you have your eye on? What are some of the courses you liked in high school? What are some of the activities? What are some of the skills you gained in high school? And after that conversation, we'll probably, if appropriate, again, offer them a chance to take one of our career assessments. That in most cases is a nice launching pad to explore options based on their interests. And it opens up most times things they never thought about. Maybe it's something in business or something in helping people or working with your hands, working with data. So working with healthcare. The assessment really gives them a plethora of options, but the goal is to help them to narrow it down. But how do you recognize what you don't identify? So you identify options, then you can recognize those things as you talk to academic advisors after they meet with us in most cases.
I love how developmental that is. I mean, it really does make sense the way that you all have structured it. It's not as random as I think people probably would just assume when they walk in and people just start asking questions, right? I mean, it's there's a system, there's an order to it all, which I think I would hope would leave parents and students feeling more reassured about this process. Out of curiosity, Terrence, what was your first major that you thought sounded good when you were in college?
Honestly, well, in retrospect, I would have thought more about it, but I majored in business administration because it sounded good to me, and
Yeah,
I didn't bother to explore. And I did some little acting, thespian on the side,
I
student
could see
ministry.
that. I could see
Yeah,
that.
I've done some things, but no, I enjoyed probably around maybe 40% of the classes I took for that program. But I figured, hey, business sounds good, but I didn't have an assessment available. I didn't have a career coach to say, hey, have you thought about something else? I went with the first thing, didn't change my mind. And in retrospect, I think it worked out well, but I would have probably taken more time to speak to other students in different majors, talk to other academic advisors. I was kind of bent on one major, wasn't very flexible. But yeah, my
Hmm.
first choice and the only choice I went with was business at the time.
Hey, since you mentioned a career coach, that got me thinking about how we work with horned frogs even beyond graduation. Can you talk a little bit about that process? That sort of once you're a frog for life, and you've paid into the system, and what opportunities exist for students beyond graduation.
Absolutely, Heath. And as you said, alumni of TCU, when you're a frog for life. So when you graduate, from a career perspective, you have access to every single service you would have as an undergrad. So resume writing, career prep, graduate school, interview prep, career fairs. We just did a webinar this afternoon called We're Doing Job Search June for alumni. And we had a guest speaker talking about your resilience resume, how to job search post COVID. So all of those services, webinars, coaching appointments with me, I work with all alumni myself. So I am a dedicated alumni person, all of our services. And we have a platform called hornfrogsconnect.com. That's I call it a LinkedIn for TCU. It's networking, finding a frog, a business directory, groups, connections. It's frogs helping frogs, Horn Frogs Connect. That's available to even current students to find alumni mentors and people that are in the industry. So I'm thinking about a job in government. You can go to Horn Frogs Connect as a current student, find a frog directory, and the frogs on the platform, many have said that they're willing to help other students and other alumni as well.
So that leads directly to a question, or maybe not directly, but indirectly to a question that Tia asked, which is, does the Neely School of Business have connections in other states for internships or just Texas? And in my mind, that link is, okay, we have alumni, and the alumni don't just live in North Texas, they live everywhere, just as our students come from everywhere. So can you talk about the work that we do with students? And Tia is asking specifically about Neely, but and you could mention that, but you might also broaden it to the career set services as a whole, and how we work with students who may be interested in pursuing opportunities, either internships or jobs after college outside the region.
Absolutely. And Tia, thank you for that question. And our Neely Business School and the main career center are under the same umbrella. So we all have we're under the same career center brand. And so we do work with students who are pursuing internships in other states. Again, our main database for internships is called Handshake. And that actually is a global database for local, national, and international internships. And so if you're a current student, you can go to Handshake, you can filter by Colorado or Denver or Oregon. And if you don't see what you're looking for on Handshake, we might recommend using LinkedIn, their job search portal, or using Horn Frogs Connect to find alumni. One of our students wanted to work in New York City recently, and she's a communication student. And so I went to Horn Frogs Connect with her and went to a group for communication. I filtered by New York City, by publishing, advertising. We found around 6 or 7 alums in New York doing advertising, publishing. They were all willing to help. So it
Wow.
really depends on the state, but Handshake will be my first go-to. Every state represented is local, national, and international internships.
Well, and that reminds me that we are ranked number 5 in the country for best alumni networks among private universities, which is just outstanding. And when you think about, the size of the school that we are, we're a mid-sized university. By private school standards, we're a little bit bigger. And so the fact that we're ranked that highly and the number of living alumni at TCU, again, relative to other private schools, is pretty big. It really means there are lots of opportunities for connection post graduation, if you're a Horned Frog. So that's really great. The next question is from Vivian, and it touches on something that I think you mentioned earlier. She says, "Is there a specific career center for pre-health, pre-med, pre-dental?" And so again, everything's sort of all under that one career center brand. But are there specific opportunities for our pre-health students?
Absolutely. Vivian, thank you so much for asking that. So our career consultants are assigned to every academic college. So for the major of pre-health and pre-dental, whatever college that falls up under in terms of their college umbrella, that career consultant is assigned for those internships, those employers, those career events and fairs. We have different career fairs according to a niche population. Like we have a nursing fair that's coming up the first week of class. We have our big career fair. College of Communication has their own fairs. So we have little mini pockets of networking events in the colleges, but that career consultant assigned to that college will be helping those pre-health and pre-dental students.
Awesome. Going back to the internship scholarship program that you mentioned earlier, Terrence, Kathy asks, can student teachers apply for an unpaid internship for that funding? And I guess I would broaden that to say, are there restrictions on who can apply for that funding?
Currently, Kathy, thanks so much for that question. Currently, the only restrictions that we have for those who can apply is our scholarships are only available to undergraduate students. So currently, we're not offering it to our grad students, but students from any major, whether student teaching or business or finance, any major can apply as long as the internship is education related and it's unpaid or pays under $500 or so. So any student, any major that's undergrad can apply.
That's great. And then, it's a competitive process, I suppose, depending on how many people end up applying. What are the things that you all are keying on to decide who's going to get it or how much a student can get? Are there essay questions that students write? Do we look at how much need or financial aid the student's on? What are some of the factors?
Absolutely, Heath. Well, we typically have our application process and they're answering a series of questions about their experience, what the internship entails, what are some of the learning they're expecting to gain, some of the skills they're gaining. And so the application is pretty straightforward. And we rarely turn down a student application. Again, unless they say, I don't need this money, I'm just applying. Then we might question that.
Yeah.
But other than that, the criteria is just that the internship is degree related, it is unpaid, low paying internship, and then answering a series of questions in our application that, again, what are some of the learning objectives? What are some of the projects you're working on? What's the internship entail? As long as they can fill out those questions, it's a competitive process, but it's, again, fairly straightforward.
Terrence, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, you noted the pandemic, and it got me wondering about what has changed from your perspective in terms of how students go about looking for internships or jobs, what services we provide, how we provide our services. So, like, what sort of shifts have you seen here in the last 2 years?
Absolutely, Heath. Well, the biggest shift I can tell you is definitely this time 2 years ago, we were not using Zoom as much. And so
Right.
I'm like, Zoom, what? But now our appointments, we're offering virtual appointments and in-person meetings, where at one point before pandemic, it was 95%, 80% in person. So the biggest change is we've shifted our model to offer virtual meetings and in-person meetings, virtual career fairs and in-person fairs. So a lot of our career events have gone to a hybrid model where we're offering an in-person career fair in the rec center and then an online career fair on Handshake. And this past semester, we did them on the same day. We had a virtual fair in the morning, in-person fair in the afternoon. So the biggest change for us has been just having more virtual offerings, and employers really like that because if I'm coming from San Antonio, I don't want to drive. Virtual just gives us more capacity to accommodate more employers who would not be here in person otherwise.
I'm curious about um, shifts that we're seeing in the economy. We're seeing, the quote unquote great resignation. We're seeing people looking specifically for more flexibility in jobs that are being offered to them. Um, that, and there is something, even taking COVID out of the equation, I think there's something generationally that is different right now than, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. What are you seeing um, that that our students want, or that our employers are offering that may be different?
Absolutely, Heath. One thing I'm seeing in terms of a shift is the pandemic really it causes a lot of us to do self-reflection, self-discovery. And
Yeah.
so a lot of these students that I'm working with are wanting mission-driven work or purpose-driven work. And
Yeah.
so there are things that are important to some students, like salary is important to some, prestige is important to others. But what I'm seeing is what comes first is values, and what comes next is fulfillment.
Mm.
So it's hard to know at 18, hey, what rewards me and what fulfills me? But if you look back at your life and what you've enjoyed in the past, like if you traveled abroad, what was rewarding about that experience? Oh, I got to use my language skills. So you think about what's values and what rewards you, beginning with fulfillment is what I'm seeing in terms of what folks are looking for. And so the job titles sometimes aren't enough. Well, now we're wanting employers to make sure that they're offering maybe being more inclusive in their job descriptions. So DEI has taken center stage in most cases. So we're working with employers to make sure that they're providing opportunities for all students, students of color, veterans, international students. So we work with all populations to get them in front of the right employers.
That resonates so much with me, Terrence, because even as we're looking at the job descriptions that we're writing, we're finding that we're altering the language significantly because we know that the applicant pool is looking for something different. And I'm wondering then, for you, has that changed how you approach students in those very early conversations? Are you asking them more about their values or what fulfills them and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I think we can do a better job of focusing on values. Most time we focus on strengths or interests or skills. But
Hmm.
one of the cool things about our assessment, we have an assessment called the Strong Interest Inventory. It's one of the widely used assessments in the world, but they have a section on values and interests
Yeah.
and skills and majors. So our assessment, it hints to values. It doesn't go into a deeper dive on values, but some of them can see, hey, I like helping people. So I value empathy. I value understanding. I value teamwork. And so they see things that resonate with them. So they'll look for that in a major. What majors align with my values? What internships align with my values? So values and fulfillment.
The next question comes from Nora, and she asked this over Instagram. We solicit questions in advance via our social media channels. And Nora asks, what kind of hands-on experience do students have to undergo for workforce prep? And I don't know, maybe there's a blanket answer for all, or maybe it would depend on the discipline, but how would you respond to that question about hands-on experience?
Absolutely. I think that hands-on experience can be a variety of things. One thing about resumes that we tell our students, and it's consistent throughout the whole Career Center, is typically relevant experience doesn't always have to be paid to be relevant.
Got it.
So if you are volunteering, if you are in leadership on campus, or if you're in a fraternity, if you're a student athlete, if you're in a national organization, those skills are transferable. So when you think about hands-on, there's actually something here that I want to mention. There is actually a group that we're a part of in the Career Center called NACE. It's the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And they actually have about 6 career-ready workforce competencies. So skills that most employers look for. And so just for example, communication skills, teamwork, equity and inclusion, critical thinking, professionalism,
Hmm.
career development. And then there's also leadership. So hands-on experience can be in a club. So how do I demonstrate leadership? How do I demonstrate teamwork? How do I demonstrate my technology skills? So we want to educate our students that there are some competencies that the workforce is looking for. You
Mm.
can't be career ready if you can't demonstrate those skills. So getting that hands-on experience helps them to further demonstrate those skills, those career ready competencies to employers.
Do you find that's a really intriguing thought, Terrence? Do you find that after those conversations or after the experiences that students have, they will come back and make classroom choices, like course selection choices that are impacted by that? Like they find they have a deficiency in a certain area, maybe it's technology, and so they're going to take a coding class, or I'm just making that up. But do you find that sort of relationship?
Absolutely, Heath. It's all about self-discovery. And that's what we call our assessment. We call them self-discovery tools. And so this is really designed to change students' minds, but it's designed to show them what the possibilities are. And so I've had several that take the results to their academic advisor and, hey, I want to change my major, or I'm looking at something in accounting or finance or IT. How do I get started with that? So it just helps start the conversation. And then we partner with the academic advisors, and they tend to take it from there in terms of course selection. But some of them see things that they can work on, or it's, hey, my technology skills, though employees value that in the workforce. So what type of hands-on experience or volunteer experience can I gain to prove those skills over time?
I love that you're talking about um, connecting back to academic advisors, which in some case, depending on the major, could be a faculty member. Um, and it goes to illustrate, I think, the tight web of support that exists at TCU for our students. Now, partially that requires the students taking some active participation of their own, right, to get themselves here, which is a good segue to the question that that Georgios asked, and this is just sort of a confirmation for what we were talking about before. So a freshman not sure about their choice of major is advised to come and visit the career office early on, right?
Absolutely, Georgios. Visit the Career Center. They'll probably meet with their, if they are assigned to a major already, let's say they're assigned to psychology, they'll probably meet with their psychology career consultant to talk about options, or I want to get out of this, I need some help. Then again, we'll probably assign an assessment to start the conversation. But even if they're pre-major, they'll meet with our ADRAN, liberal arts career consultant, because that person tends to have all of our pre-majors. So absolutely, yes, they can come to the Career Center and talk to their options, and again, to potentially take a career assessment.
Excellent. Okay, time for another break. Got our next dad joke for you. And Terrence, you said you work with our athletes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is for you in particular. Why was the coach yelling at the vending machine? Why was the coach yelling at the vending machine?
Oh, wow. I'm puzzled. They're out of snacks or something.
Yeah, well, some of our coaches, I know that they do like their snacks. No, the coach was yelling at the vending machine because he wanted his quarterback.
Ah,
So, I could understand that. All right.
that was a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, this next question is from Paula. And Paula asks, does the Career Center also guide students who wish to go on to grad school find opportunities to do so, or is that really dependent on the academic department that the student's coming from? And before you answer that question, I will note that nearly 90% of our students are employed or in graduate school just 6 months after graduation. Okay, so why don't you take that question from Paula?
Sure, Paula, great question. The answer is yes. We do offer support with graduate school. So whether they're exploring grad school, or many of our students have already decided I'm going to go get my MBA, or I'm going to get a master's degree, we can help them with their personal statements, with their resumes for graduate school. We even have a platform called Big Interview. So if they have an interview for graduate school, they can do interview practice with their consultant. And we have an online platform called Big Interview that has graduate school related questions for their graduate school. So yes, we do offer grad school support. And also, Heath, I want to actually do an addendum to the number I saw. We actually have, you said close to 90, it's 93% of our students are
Oh, awesome.
in jobs. So we're really happy about that. in jobs or going to grad school or military within 6 months of graduation. So right
That's
at
excellent.
90%.
No, I appreciate that update. And I know that, and I remember having conversations with Mike early on when he arrived at how difficult it is to try to track down those numbers from graduates. I think we're lucky in that our graduates tend to be pretty connected to TCU. I know at some colleges that number would be impossible to track down because once they graduate, it's like they're out of sight forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But 93%, that's fantastic. Okay, so Denise is asking, can an incoming junior meet with you for guidance on changing majors and what careers certain majors could lead to? Also, are there virtual options as opposed to in person for a session? And I'm not sure if Denise is talking about juniors in college or juniors in high school. But actually, those are both interesting questions. If there was a high school junior who wanted to meet with a career advisor, is there a restriction, or do you only meet with current students?
Actually, we meet with all current students and even graduate students. So if they're a junior at TCU, they can absolutely meet with their assigned career consultant. Or if they're thinking about, I'm thinking about going into liberal arts, I want to talk to that career consultant about careers in criminal justice. So again, let's say they're in psychology, they can be with our engineering career consultant. And then we can talk about career options. Our consultants are trained in what you can do with your major, what types of careers, what types of industries, what types of companies. So you can really do a sneak peek on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a really cool alumni feature that has TCU alums and what they're working. But as a good first step, you can definitely meet with your consultant to get a sense of what types of careers are out there for their major.
And I will also add, for those who may be wondering about the possibility of meeting with a career consultant or the Career Center as a prospective student, we do have every almost on a monthly basis throughout the academic year, we have a major campus visit program called Monday at TCU. And our Career Center always has a presence at Monday at TCU. We very much want to talk to prospective families about what this looks like. We know increasingly, and this isn't new, but families want to know about return on investment. We believe strongly that there is intrinsic value to going to college. Just for its own sake. We also know that it is preparation for life after college. And if you're going to be spending the money that a school like TCU charges, you want to know that there is something on the other side waiting for you. So that's very, very important. Okay. Marlena asked a follow-up question, I think, to the internship scholarship program that we've touched on a couple times. Is it too late to apply for those scholarships? I think, Terrence, you said we're in the process of reviewing. Has the deadline already passed?
I believe it already has passed for the spring and summer. So I think our fall application will be coming out relatively soon. But if students are still pursuing internships, by all means, once they accept it, they can still come back and apply for the scholarship. So the process typically is once they accept it, once they interview for it, and then they've accepted it, then they can come. But I would say start applying now. If you're an incoming student or a sophomore, junior, senior, continue to explore and apply. But once you've accepted it, you can apply for the scholarship when it opens up. Our website has all of our details and our deadlines and when the application is open.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Terrence, we just have a minute left. And I just want to ask if you have any sort of final thoughts that you would want to leave folks with. Like, what's your one piece of advice, one nugget you would share with our prospective families about this whole college or career path process?
Absolutely. I would really say that whether you're in college or exploring careers, networking really is key. So we could talk about your relationship mindset. Those who come to the Career Center early have a relationship with their consultant. Sometimes the career consultants can recommend students to certain employers. So we have employers that say, if you know any students that are interested, let us know. And some employers are saying, hey, I'm an alum, I want to hire a frog. When they apply, let me know. We can highlight their resume. So how does it happen? It comes through relationships. If I know the student, if I have conversation with them, establish a rapport, you're not in this by yourself. Sometimes we can even highlight a resume to an alum that wants to hire a frog because frogs love hiring frogs. So I really recommend the networking, getting to know your consultants, your faculty, know your professors, your deans, a relationship mindset. 85% of jobs are found through networking, and they're obtained through relationships. So plant relationships and start early, and don't wait until you're a senior to visit the Career Center.
I can personally attest to that. Every job I've ever had has been through that networking process. So I think that's absolutely correct and great advice and a terrific note to end on. Terrence, thank you so much for joining us this evening and giving of your time. Your expertise is really, really valuable. And I know that many of the folks who've joined us will look forward to meeting you personally when they come to campus. So thanks so much.
It's been my pleasure, Heath. It's been fun. I enjoyed all the questions, and everyone have a great evening and go Frogs.
Absolutely. For those who have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to us at frogmail@tcu.edu. That's FROGMAIL at tcu.edu. You can call our office in the Office of Admission at 817-257-7490. And for those who are more comfortable communicating in Spanish, we have Spanish-speaking folks on our staff. So we welcome that as well. We are taking a break next month, as I mentioned earlier, but we will be back here and better than ever in August. So I wish you a great summer and go Frogs.
Go Frogs.